It is time to breathe again on the latest Breath of Fresh Air webcast, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I am your host, Charles Taylor, and I am riding solo tonight because Patrick Brackett is out celebrating his birthday with fam. So say it with me. Happy birthday, Patrick. And I hope he is enjoying his time with his family as he celebrates his birthday. With that, it's time to jump into some of these topics. And we will start with the NBA Finals, that preview. Oh, by the way, before Patrick went out celebrating, he did give me his picks for who he thinks will win the NBA Finals and also the Stanley Cup Final that is coming up as well. So start with the NBA Finals, and the matchup you have is the Dallas Mavericks coming out of the Western Conference as the fifth seed in the West. That tells you how deep and how rugged the Western Conference was going through this season. But the Mavericks just found they found their rhythm. They were able to make some moves, which we have discussed on other shows in the past about their trades, what they were able to do at the trade deadline, adding guys like Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington to help solidify the defensive part. Everybody knew the Mavericks can score. Of course, when you have players like Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, you're never out of the game because you do have the ultimate scoring punch with those two players. But as a team with those moves, they got better. They played well as a unit. And when you add that with the offensive punch they already have, that makes a team that is difficult to beat. As good as they were playing down the stretch, I don't know how many people actually expected them to be where they're at now in the NBA Finals, but they ran through the gauntlet that is the Western Conference, beating the LA Clippers in 6 games in the first round, beating the number 1 seeded OKC Thunder in the second round, and then beating the 3rd seeded Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games. They beat OKC in 6 games, but they beat Minnesota in 5 games. And here they are. They will face the Boston Celtics from the Eastern Conference, whose road probably wasn't as hard as what the Mavericks had to go through. But nevertheless, they were the number 1 seed, had the best record in not just in the conference, in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. And they were able to dispatch the Miami Heat in 5 games, beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games, and they defeated the Indiana Pacers via sweep. Now, people will criticize the strength of schedule or the strength of the run the Celtics went on because those other teams, you had the Miami Heat missing Jimmy Butler, you had the Cleveland Cavaliers missing Donovan Mitchell for a couple of games, and the Pacers were without Tyrese Halliburton for a couple of those games, for games 3 and 4. But nevertheless, you can only play who is in front of you. And chances are, as good as Boston had been throughout the year, they were probably going to be at this point anyway. So no excuses. The Celtics are here, and this is the matchup we have. So game 1 starts Thursday night in Boston, and let's get with the picks. So, Patrick and I both have the Celtics winning this series. I think they'll win in 6 games. Patrick, I think, said either 6 or 7. I want to say he's good with 7 games. Neither one of us will be surprised to see the Mavericks win this series because of how well they have played throughout this playoff run. But I think what gives the Mavericks the edge, or not the Mavericks, the Celtics the edge, is the return of Kristaps Porzingis. If he is able to go and he is close to full strength, we all know with Porzingis, this is a question because he has been an often injured player. But if he is in the lineup, what he can do, particularly on offense, is really spread the court. The Celtics 1 through 5, particularly with Porzingis in the lineup, any one of those guys can score. So that's going to affect two things when you look at the lineup with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Porzingis. Is its ultimate spacing. Every one of those guys can make a play for themselves or the others. And the two things it's going to affect: number one, there's nowhere for Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving to hide on defense. We know the trend that happens throughout the league where the best player on a lot of teams, they try to put them on a person who isn't as, I don't want to say capable, but isn't as likely to make a play or to do something with the ball in his hands. They're going to camp out in the corner, and if there's an open three for them to take, they'll go ahead and take that. Those guys aren't really moving around on the court a whole bunch. There's not a lot of activity. So a lot of teams, a lot of coaching staffs throughout the league will put their best player on that person who's going to camp out in the corner. You can't do that with the Celtics lineup. So Luka's going to have to play some defense. Kyrie is going to have to play some defense too. And although those two players have improved a little bit on the defensive end, this will be a true test to see how much that improvement has gone. So Luka can't rest on defense. And the second thing is, it's with Porzingis in there, it's going to bring Gafford and Derek Lively out a little bit, because Porzingis can get to the hoop, he can drive, but he can also shoot the three at a pretty consistent level for a big guy. So if that rim protection is pulled out from the lane, that's going to open up the penetration for particularly Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to attack the rim, get to the hoop, and get to the foul line. And both of those players are pretty good free throw shooters. So I think that if Porzingis is good and healthy, the reports say he's gonna be good to play in game one, and we'll see how that transpires beyond. But if he is in there, that gives the Celtics an edge on offense because of those two items I had mentioned. And then on the other end, I think the Celtics ball pressure could start to tire Luka and Kyrie out. Drew Holiday is one of the best on-ball defenders there is in the league, and Derek White is a good defender as well. And of course, Tatum and Brown, they're also good defenders. So you got a lot of long, athletic guys that can somewhat bother those two players, Luka and Kyrie. I mean, look, those dudes are going to get their baskets. They are going to score. They are very, very gifted offensive players. But if you can keep that pressure going throughout the course of a series, that's where it will start to show the effects of the pressure that comes on those players. So with all that being said, that just sums up what I was saying earlier about where Patrick and I see this series going. We both think Boston will win the series. We think this is the time for the Celtics to finally break through with the core group, or at least the core duo of Tatum and Brown. If they're not going to do it this year, having the best record in the league, running through the Eastern Conference to get to this point, I don't know when they're going to do it. I don't know if there's going to be any better of an opportunity for the Celtics to win with that duo in place than right now. And I do think they will break through and get that championship. So once again, Patrick and I both have Boston winning. I have the Celtics in 6, and he has them in 7 games. But we wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way, and the Mavericks are the one who is hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy. Now let's go on to the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals, where you have the Edmonton Oilers. Now, they're coming out of the Western Conference. You heard Patrick and me say we didn't think they were going to beat Dallas. We were surprised they even got past the second round. And I get with Connor McDavid on there and Drysdale, I mean, they have two of the best players in the league. But we just thought Dallas in particular was the better team, and they were going to wear them down. Edmonton surprisingly showed a lot of depth. They were able to get production from their third line, and they won the last three games, and they're in the Stanley Cup final, where they will run up against the Florida Panthers from the Eastern Conference. They are coming off of a win over the best team in the league, or in terms of the regular season, uh, uh, the points total, which was the New York Rangers, and Dallas was second. So both of these teams, Edmonton and Florida, beat the top two teams in the league. And both of us, Patrick and I, we both have Florida winning this. We just think Florida is the tougher team, the more physical team, the what we like to call the meat and potatoes team. They're gonna be physical, but they can play any style. If they have to score 3, 4, 5 goals, they can do it. They're primarily built to win the 2-1, 3-2 games. But if they have to get in the shootout, they can do that. And they're very good defensively, very disciplined, and they're just really, really tough to deal with. I think it will be a little bit too much for Edmonton as a team to handle. Connor McDavid is good enough to carry the team to 1 or 2 games. And if they are able to get some third line production like they got from the Star, or in the series against the Stars, then this series could go 7. But we don't think it'll happen. We both have Florida in 6. So the Panthers will be hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup, and I guess it will be in front of the home fans in Edmonton, which would be kind of hurtful for the people up there in Edmonton in the province of Alberta. And let me tell you, I had the pleasure of being in Edmonton the last time they were in the Stanley Cup, which I believe was 2006, where they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in 7 games. But let me tell you, that that's a very, 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 very intense and very lively environment. So I can only imagine what it is right now as the Oilers are back in the Stanley Cup, and we'll see what they can do. But we think they're going to come up short. We got the Florida Panthers win in that series. So there's our predictions. There's our choices. So of course, let us know what you think on what we have or what we're deciding with these choices. And of course, if you disagree or agree, you can let us know. Good, bad, or indifferent, of course. So let's get to some of the other topics. And I guess we'll jump into the NFL. And I just wanted to talk about the wide receiver market that is booming, just absolutely booming now. So it started last week when Miami Dolphins receiver Jalen Waddle got, I think, 3 years, $84 million. So that averages out to be $28 million per year. Of course, we all know with the language that comes with the NFL, there's certain guarantees, or there's an amount of guaranteed money that's going to be in there, but on the surface, it's a 3-year, $84 million contract. What that ultimately ended up doing was setting the stage. It set the stage for the contract the Vikings gave Justin Jefferson. So the Minnesota Vikings, they gave Justin Jefferson 4 years, $140 million on his contract, and that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Now, if anybody does deserve that contract, it would be Justin Jefferson, because I mean he's been the number one receiver in this league, and Minnesota wasn't going to let him go anywhere. I know people were talking about where that contract was going to be, but he was going to get his contract, or as they say, back up the Brinks truck for him, or get that bag. But that makes him the highest paid wide receiver. That beats the contract the Philadelphia Eagles gave AJ Brown, which was a 3-year, $96 million contract, which I think was signed last year. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is actually the third rated receiver in terms of contract. He's getting a 4-year, $120 million deal. Uh, I mean, I don't know if these receivers are worth that much money. I can understand the Justin Jefferson contract for sure. Um, AJ Brown, yeah, I don't know if he's worth that, but I guess you can make an argument for that. Amara St. Brown, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm giving him 4 years, 120 million, and I'm not even sure if I give Jalen Waddle the deal he got. And with the Dolphins, they already have Tyreek Hill for a 4 year, $120 million deal. So they're giving a lot of money to their receivers, which I guess is saying they think highly of Tua to continue to improve and ultimately lead them to higher um, heights than the wild card round, which is where they got last year before they went out to the Kansas City Chiefs in that ice bowl they played at Arrowhead Stadium. So I think this market that the receiver market is what's booming right now, and these things kind of come in cycles, and it's always about who's going to be the next one to get paid, and whoever does get that contract, they'll probably end up being the highest paid receiver too. So you have Justin Jefferson's, who, like I said, is making who got a 4 year, $140 million contract. I think 110 million of that is guaranteed. Uh, but guys like CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys, who's sitting out mandatory minicamp, he's due for a deal, and so is Cincinnati Bengals receiver Jamar Chase. So those guys, they see what Justin Jefferson is making. I expect those, or at least if I'm thinking logically about it, I expect those guys to come in somewhere close to that, but I don't know if it will be over that. It possibly could be. I mean, the way these deals are going these days, wouldn't be surprised if someone decided they were going to give uh, one of these guys, whether it's CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase, this amount of money. But you always have to be careful with these contracts because you don't want to ultimately handcuff yourself to where you can't sign other players. And I mean, I guess with the money coming in, people just making money hand over fist in the NFL, just billions and billions of dollars just rolling in from the TV deals and the revenue that the sport is bringing in, that makes the salary cap more expandable, which ultimately gives the teams more room to sign these players to bigger contracts. But even still, there is a salary cap, and that's different from a lot of the other sports. But with the NFL having a salary cap, you could only spend so much money before you just decide you have to just make hard choices and let some of these players go that you would want to keep, but you just can't because you're giving your money to like two or three players on the team. And most of the time the quarterback is the one who's eating up all the money. But with Minnesota, that's an interesting case now because they don't have Kirk Cousins anymore. He has gone to the Atlanta Falcons, and you have a rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy. So if you have McCarthy in there, that gives you the room, the flexibility to take care of those other players who are coming up due for deals and have been there, maybe want to stay there, get a little bit more long-term security with their contracts. So I think this was a good time with Minnesota not really having to worry about a huge quarterback payday. You have a rookie there, so you got him on the rookie scale at least for 3 years, and you can afford to give a guy like Justin Jefferson, who I'm sure JJ McCarthy is thrilled to be able to throw to. You can get him paid and taken care of, and now he's happy. So good for Justin Jefferson to get that contract. And I do believe if there is going to be a highest paid receiver, I think at least for now, before that next contract comes, I think this is the guy who should be the highest paid receiver in the league right now. And you got him at a good age. I think he's only 24 years old. So by the time that contract runs out, he's 28. He's still got some prime years. So I think it's a good deal all the way around for Justin Jefferson, for the Minnesota Vikings, And again, I think he's the one. If there's going to be a number one receiver getting paid number one receiver money, he's that guy who should get it. Let's move on to, let's see, it had a few topics. Yeah, let's go to the Major League Baseball story that has came out, and this is about, let's see, that he was playing for the San Diego Padres. His name, let me see if I'm saying his name right. Tusupita Marcano. Yeah, Tusupita Marcano. He was a let's see. Yeah, he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates last season, and I guess he's a current member, or he was a current member of the San Diego Padres, but now he is permanently banned from baseball because he decided he wanted to place not just 10 bets, not just 50 bets, hundreds of bets on baseball, including wagers on the team he was playing for, which was the Pittsburgh Pirates, or the roster he was on. It says, so I'm just kind of reading some of this from the story that I broke from ESPN. So they said that he placed 387 bets, totaling more than $150 in October of 2022. And then I guess from last July to November, he was working with this sports book. Look, we know already. We've talked about this on this show, and we've heard about it on other forums. If there is one thing Major League Baseball is sure about, and this is coming from a league that has operated on gray area for as long as we can remember. But if there is one thing they are sure about, is you as a player, you will not bet on baseball. You will not. They're like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't have to go back and restate what had happened with Pete Rose back in the day. Everybody knows that story. But that is one thing you cannot do without a shadow of a doubt. That and PEDs. You do not do that in Major League Baseball, because the punishments now they're stiff, like way stiff, stiffer than I think they are in other sports for sure. But I mean, you talk about what they do with the PEDs, first offense. I mean, that's 80 game suspension. That's half of the season in Major League Baseball, with the season that plays 162 games. But yeah, you can't do that. You cannot bet on baseball. And this is something that is going to continue to pop up. It's probably going to pop up with more regularity, because the leagues, or not the leagues, the TV stations, and also the leagues themselves have these partnerships with all these different betting agencies, whether it's MGM, whether it's FanDuel, whether it's DraftKings, and you have these stations who have shows dedicated to betting, dedicated to talking about the lines, dedicated to playing over-unders, dedicated to playing point spreads. This is something that was looked at as taboo not that long ago. And now all of a sudden it is huge in the landscape of sports and the fabric of Americana now. So to hear a player get in trouble for betting on games, it's not surprising, and it's going to continue to pop up, and it's probably going to be more frequently it pops up, as long as the TV stations have these shows dedicated to gambling. as long as they continue to show commercials involving gambling, they're throwing it all in the face of everybody. So the players, they're humans too. So they're going to want to go ahead and try to lay down a bet. And maybe if you're Marcano here and any other player who gets in trouble for gambling, maybe it would be a good idea not to bet on that sport. I'm just saying, or definitely not on the team that you're playing for. It is huge, huge, huge uh, about the integrity of the games. There's already a lot of questions. Everybody wants to push these crazy ass conspiracy theories, talking about how these games are rigged. That's rigged. That was fixed. And this referee got paid off, or this official went ahead and made this call that clearly was not supposed to be called. The integrity of the game has been under scrutiny and has been called into question more and more going forward. Now, y'all know me. I am one that says, can we stop with all the excuses when things don't go their way? Because the people who throw these conspiracy theories out there, number one, they're already looking for something to make excuses about, especially when it doesn't go their way. And number two, they just operate in that world of everything is fixed or rigged. Everything is a conspiracy theory. No matter what it is, everything is something that's out of this world that is causing this to happen. That's not the case. I don't think that's what's going on here. I'm not going to sit here and be naive about it and say there's zero possibility of that happening. I do think there is definitely the possibility of that happening because, again, it's human nature. So if it would be feasible to say, it wouldn't be surprising if somebody got a little bit of money on the side to go ahead and make this bet and ultimately get a huge payday. I'm not saying that's not possible. I don't think it's a chronic problem for games being fixed. I don't think all these games are being fixed. I don't think whole seasons are being fixed. I don't think all the seasons are operating on a script and then you have to follow the script. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think that is completely and utterly ridiculous and crazy, because if that was the case, how perfect does everything have to go for this call to be made at this time in the fourth quarter for that to come true? Give me a break. I think that's crazy. But with the betting, yeah, I think that is probably happening at an alarming rate, and it's going to continue to happen. The leagues are going to have to continue to get a handle on it. And if the way they could is if you continue to hand out these punishments. In baseball, yeah, you're banned for life. And I think there's no harsher statement, no harsher penalty to hand down than to take that sport away. The sport that gave them everything they had, that helped them create a living in life. You take that away from them, not many people are going to want to deal with that. So for those players, you're just going to have to see how much this bet, whatever that bet is, how much is it worth to them. Apparently for Tucupita Marcano, it was worth his whole career, and he got caught and now he's out. He is banned from the sport. So let that be a lesson to everybody else who wants to play baseball. They're not playing with this. They want to make sure the integrity of the game is held up, and they are not going to play around, especially after the Pete Rose thing. They are not going to mess around. They will get you out of here if they see you have betted on games. And also on that note, I guess the Major League Baseball, I guess they cleared Shohei Ohtani of any wrongdoing in terms of the bets. I guess the agent, he put in his plea today, and they had said it's pretty much a closed case. Let's move on. They identified that Otani was basically a victim of fraud, and he didn't have anything to do with betting on the games. So I guess that's put to bed. Shohei can continue to do his thing, hit home runs, and pitch 9 innings as well. Well, I guess once he's able to pitch. But there you have it with this latest player to get banned from his sport for betting on the games. And again, just to sum it up, it is about the integrity of the league and the games. The leagues are not going to play with that. No more. I think they seen enough of it to have it call into question, and they're not going to let their sports come into question. They're going to make sure they protect the integrity. If they don't protect anything else, they're going to protect the integrity of their games. Let's go on to college sports, because I wanted to talk about what is going on just in general as we are getting closer to the football season. There is going to be a lot of changes coming in, and I'm sure we will detail this as we get closer to the start of the season. But there's going to be a lot of different teams in a lot of different places, and you're going to have 12 teams in the playoffs and everything, particularly with football and basketball, because those are the two sports that are bringing in the most money. That everything is, everything is about money. And now it's blatantly obvious nobody really cares about the after effects of it. Everybody is just trying to get paid. Everybody is trying to get a piece. And you're just going a different way about it. So like we had talked about, or depending on the conference, you're just going a different way about it. Now, we had talked about how the SEC has operated on what they have done on the field of play. We know the numbers with the number of championships they have won in football. I think 14 out of the last 21 seasons they have won the championship, whether it was in the BCS era, college football playoff era, the era before the BCS started. Well, no, I guess the BCS was around before they went on this run, started going on this run. But it is them living off of that reputation of how good they have been on the field. And of course, they have expanded to 16 teams with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma. Now, that addition, those two additions, that makes perfect sense. They're still in the region of the South, and you're just making those additions to expand your reach on the South. The Big Ten, on the other hand, I get it. Yes, Michigan won the latest championship. Give props to Michigan. Good for them. But the Big Ten just said, well, we're just going to try to get in every market we can, and we're going to be the first true coast-to-coast league. So let's go and get UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington from the West Coast and bring them into our conference and call ourselves the Big Ten still, even though you have 18 teams. So it's apparent the Big Ten still can't count. They don't know how to count. It doesn't look like they're ever going to fix that either. They're just cool with being called the Big Ten, and they can have 50 teams, but they'll still be called the Big Ten. Anyway, they decided that they just wanted to expand to all the big markets. So you're in the New York market with Rutgers in there. Of course, with UCLA, USC, you're in the LA market. You've been in the Chicago market because it's in the Midwest. Then the headquarters are there in Chicago for the Big Ten Conference. And then you're in Philadelphia with the addition of Penn State. Even Penn State's been in there for a while, but these are your top 4 markets in America. So they said, we're just going to go ahead and just try to get in all the markets we can to maximize the money and get these billion-dollar contracts that they have with all the networks. So I just think now and then you throw in what the players are doing with NIL and the transfer portal. The conferences have went and said they are going to go ahead and pay the players directly. The universities can pay the players directly. And I guess the NCAA wanted to jump in it too. Of course they did. They're obsolete anyway. So they just wanted to continue to try to stay relevant. But it is it's just a complete and utter just money fist. And when you get to that chase of money, look, we all love money, right? We all want to get paid. We all want to make sure we are comfortable and we are lucrative and we can sustain whatever living we want to sustain and we can continue to operate whichever way that is. But we want to keep that level. In that money chase, though, it's already been that way if you're talking about the NCAA. But the question I have is how many downfalls have to come from that before we just sit back and say to ourselves, let's chill. Let's chill for a little bit. Let's look at this logically and see what we're doing. Everybody is just so blinded by the dollar signs. I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, especially when you're talking about expansion with the playoff, which is just going to bring in billions and billions of dollars right there. And these conferences are going to become more and more super. I seriously doubt the Big Ten is stopping at 18 teams. I seriously doubt the SEC is stopping at 16 teams. And if I had to take a guess, I think the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, is on the way to being poached as well. The Pac-12 got gutted. I guess they're still going to try to keep it alive with Oregon State and Washington State. I just don't see how long that's going to happen. But the ACC, I think, they're looking like they're next on the chopping block. The teams are going to start getting rated from that conference. I could see Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and North Carolina in some way, shape, or form going to the SEC. So the SEC becomes a team or a conference with 20 teams. The Big Ten is going to get somebody. I could see them just going ahead and adding Notre Dame, and with Notre Dame having the caveat of their contract with NBC. And the rich are just going to continue to get richer. When I look at the contract that happened, or not the contracts, well, they might as well be contracts. Will be a lot of contracts coming and offers coming if the schools get to talk to the recruits directly. But when I look at what's going on with that settlement, and you have the schools paying the players or talking to the players directly, it is officially, it's professional sports now. Not even amateur sports. It's professional sports. If the schools can negotiate with the players directly, then now you're talking about contract structure. You're talking about offset language. You're talking about what type of guarantees you can get with your NIL deals. It is officially professional sports now. It's no longer college sports. College is now actually semi-pro. That's what it is. It's professional sports, but the level below the NFL. So I guess I could call it semi-pro, but no longer is it about amateur sports. No longer is it about the student athlete. And for the longest time, it wasn't about the student athlete anyway. This is about the athletic student, because the athletes are the ones who are bringing in the money. And just the money chase is going to cut some people off. And you're going to have these other sports, whether it is golf, whether it is lacrosse, whether it is gymnastics, track and field. These sports, I can see them getting cut out because they're just not bringing in the money football and basketball is. And if they do stay in there, it's probably it probably won't happen on the group of five conferences a whole lot. The Power Five conferences will probably be okay because it's just hand over fist with them because they have the TV contracts that's coming in. So I just see it just turning more into Wild Wild West, unfortunately. And I think there's going to be a lot of other students who are going to find themselves on the short end. And it's just sad because of the power, the money chase, the greed that is happening throughout college sports and life in general, truthfully. Um, Last topic before we cut on out, let's talk about Caitlin Clark. So, of course, Caitlin Clark has been in the news, and she's been in our radar for the last couple of years. Uh, she was with Iowa for the last couple of years. Well, for her college career, of course, but in Iowa, she was able to lead her team to the championship game 2 years in a row. Lost to LSU and Angel Reese that first year, and then lost to the undefeated South Carolina team led by Camelia Cardoso. Caitlin Clark has been getting a little beat up, a little touched up, I guess, in her first few games in the WNBA. Couple of hard fouls, people talking mess to her and putting wood on her, because that's basically what's happening. It's the same thing that the guys would do if you have a young player come in who's been the hot thing going on, and if people they want you to earn your keep. So yes, you get the flash, you get everything that's coming with what you did in college, but yeah, you're gonna take some bumps. You're gonna take some lumps going through the league. So in Saturday's game, there was a game Saturday that the team Caitlin Clark is on, the Indiana Fever. They played the Chicago Sky. The Chicago Sky has Angel Reese. We know that history. And there was I don't want to call it like an incident, but there was a play where the Sky guard, Chinity Carter, just body checked Caitlin Clark. just launched into her on the sideline. And Caitlin Clark, she fell. I do think she kind of embellished that a little bit, but it was a solid check. It's a solid check. And Kennedy Carter, she said something smart to her. Angel Reese was seen jumping up and down a little bit in support of what happened with Caitlin Clark. So here's my thing with that. Look, I've heard a lot of opinions, including Pat McAfee on ESPN. He called Caitlin Clark a white bee, which I have no idea why he would call her that. I have no idea where that even came from. But of course, he's not going to be held responsible for the actions because ESPN is not going to hold him responsible. ESPN is just going to say it's just typical Pat McAfee, and we're going to continue giving him $17 million a year. So it's not like he's going to get punished for it. But besides that, I don't understand why that even came out of his mouth. I don't understand why he would call her that. That just made no sense to me. It was absolutely stupid. But there's been a lot of different opinions coming on through, some gender-based, some race-based, and a lot of it just seems lazy to me. Now, I don't think it's as easy as the other women are jealous of Caitlin Clark. I can see where there may be some jealousy there because you have this woman coming in, putting a lot of eyeballs on the WNBA that was not there before. That's a fact. I mean, that's not anything that really can be debated. That really can't be debated that much. You just look at the numbers and you can see how high viewership is since Caitlin Clark has come into the league. That's a fact. So I can see a little bit of jealousy there, but I don't think it's all jealousy. I don't think it is all the Black players are jealous of Caitlin Clark and they just want to rough her up a little bit. I don't think that's what's going on either. I also don't understand some of the men out here coming out and saying, "Oh well, I mean, they're not playing like the ladies. They're not they're not acting unladylike. I don't understand. Like they're not really like they're almost scared that the women's game is getting more eyeballs than the men's game." And what I think it is, even though I think the a lot of the opinions that are out there are lazy, I just think it's a combination of all the above, truthfully. Multiple things can be true at the same time. And I'm pretty sure Caitlin knew when she came into the league, it was going to be a battle. Just simply because number one, I mean, let's start on the team. The Indiana Fever, I mean, they had the number one pick. When you have the number one pick in the league, you have that for a reason. It's because you're not good. So from that standpoint of just trying to get some success, that was always going to be tough because the Indiana Fever weren't that good. But besides that, when you have a lot of success, you automatically have a target on your back. Automatically, whether you want it or not, whether you're trying to get it intentionally or not. I believe Caitlin Clark has handled things the best way she can, but she chirps on the court. We've seen her chirp on the court. We know she did it with Angel Reese. And with Angel Reese, hey, she's part of that reason as well. That there's more eyeballs on the league than there has been ever. But with Angel Reese, if you're going to talk about how you're unapologetically yourself and you're not going to apologize for how you act or who you are, then you can't walk away and not take questions when you were seen jumping up and down and celebrating when Caitlin Clark got body checked. Now she can. I mean, she's a grown woman. She can do what she wants. But don't talk all that mess. And then when you know people are going to want to ask you questions, you go away. You avoid that. So I think there is a lot of just different angles, a lot of emotion going on. And I just think people need to calm down. Just go in there, enjoy the game, and just I don't know. Like I think Caitlin has done a lot of good for the league. And she wears that crown well. Now she's in the pros. She hasn't earned the stripes, if you will, and she's gonna take some hits. The Kennedy Carter hit, Caitlin Clark's why are you gonna take more of those? And I'm sure she knows it. So she's gonna have to get into the gym. She's gonna have to bulk up a little bit, just like every player who gets to a level of success or who wants to be a champion, they have to make those adjustments. I'm not gonna go as far as to say that it's something like the Jordan rules. I had heard that. I had heard that opinion one time. I don't think that's what's going on. I don't think teams are just going in, just saying we're gonna just goon it up and everything. Every time she touches the ball, we're just gonna knock her to the ground. I don't think that's what's going on. And the referees, the way things are refereed these days, they're not gonna let that happen anyway. Like after a hard foul, it's going to be flagrant, handed out, and you'll get everybody suspended. It's not like how it was in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, where a hard foul was just part of the deal. Where if you went to the hoop and tried to dunk on somebody, you was going to pay for it. You was going to take a hard foul, and it was just looked at as a clean basketball play. Get up and take your free throws. But I can see a little bit of, hey, we're going to be physical with Caitlin Clark. We're going to make sure she doesn't get clean touches. We're going to make sure we hit her a little bit when she comes off these screens. So I just think it's something we just have to continue to watch. I thought the play with Kennedy Carter, truthfully, was a lot over nothing. Was it a hard foul? Was it a hard body check? Yes. But I don't think it's one of those things where we have to have whole shows, whole segments about what's going on there. Why can't it just be a hard basketball play? I just think we try too hard to look for reasons. Oh, well, the women are jealous. Oh, I think there's some race issues going on. No, can we just play the game and just let it be? And then if it does come out that there's some sort of a case there, then all right, let's explore it then. But I personally didn't look at it like that. I thought it was a hard basketball play. She did check them. They were probably chirping. They were talking some mess beforehand. But I don't know if there always has to be some sort of a discriminatory nature with it, I guess is what I'm saying. But as I said earlier, I think so. I do think there's probably a combination of the three. We just don't know it intended, like it, we don't know that to be any type of a fact. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was a combination of those three things. I just think if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about the whole thing, not just the one side that's going to push your narrative. And please, let's not hear people get called B words. So with that, that is what I am breathing on for today. Y'all make sure y'all go to the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, and follow the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. Once again, to Patrick, happy birthday. And I'll do what I can to give him a plug. I'm not getting paid for this plug, by the way. And I never do when I ask him to talk about Bro Epic. But check out that channel. I think he has a new episode coming out. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but maybe next week. So when he comes back on, I'm sure he'll tell you more about it. But check out the videos. Excuse me. There's a lot of fun challenges on the vids, and the kids are having fun with those challenges as well. So go ahead, check it out, give that a subscribe, give it a like, give it a follow on whichever of the forums he's on, because he's on all of them. So with that, everybody take care, and we will talk next week. All right, have a good night.